Welcome to Motorsport Coaching, the podcast for racers with racers. Miss Motivate can help get you to the next level. Every episode, she talks to the best racers of today and those that can get you there. She'll help you get better.
Racing news.
At fitness, nutrition, sports psychology, sponsorship, social media, public relations, and media training. Connect with Miss Motivate at motivatetraining.com.au. That's MOTIV, 8, training.com.au. And now, to help get you to the next level, Miss Motivate herself, Belinda Risley.
Hello, crew, and welcome to episode 139 of the Motorsport Coaching Podcast. I am your host, Belinda Risley, and this week I've got something a little bit different for you guys. Over the last 2 weeks, I've interviewed Cody Mackay from Cody Mackay Motorsports, who's a motorsport athlete and small business owner. And we had a chat around about how he goes seeking sponsorship, and he also gives us some great networking tips. So that will be the second interview for today. And the first one would be, I caught up with my good friend Damon Hill from The Sponsorship Expert, and he talks to us about his role as a sponsorship broker and when to engage in his services and all the wonderful things that he does over at The Sponsorship Expert. I hope you enjoyed this week's quick episode. Don't forget the doors are now open for the Winning Sponsorship course. So if you're looking to develop your knowledge around sponsorship, please make sure you check that out over at motivatetraining.com.au/winning. That link will be in today's show notes, as well as Damon's details and Cody's details. They've also been previous guests on the podcast, so I'll also link to their previous episodes so you get to know a little bit more about them. And if you didn't know, team, there's actually 4 great ways that you can work with me personally. So if you are looking to develop more fast your sponsorship strategy, please get in contact with us. We do have those coaching packages available. All right, until next week, team, have a fantastic week. Don't forget, this week's tip is don't forget to contact your race commentator prior to your race weekend and give them a bio on you, what's been happening since last time you raced, and all your socials so they can promote you, or hopefully even give you an interview. Until next week, team, let's listen to Damon.
Hello, crew. Welcome to my chat with Damon Hill from the Signature Series Group. Hello, Damon.
Hey, how you going?
Yes, it's good to talk, Damon. We're live. He was waiting.
I'm a quiet type of guy. What can I say?
Well, thank you for joining me today to talk all things sponsorship, which we love here at Motivate Training.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, obviously, it's such an important part of the sport we're all involved in, and it's my passion too. Obviously, the business side of the sport is very exciting, and it's just an interesting part of business to be in.
Yeah, so for those who haven't met you before, can you tell us a little bit about you? Who you are? What a great
sure. So I've been doing sponsorship for about
don't give your age.
Yeah, I didn't want to give away too much. About 16 years now. So I come from a motorsport background. Have had the opportunity to work around the world in various guises with different companies and teams and in different series. And then in 2008, I think I started this business, Signature Series Group, and we started doing sponsorship, predominantly for V8 supercars and their teams and stuff.
Yeah, so the last time I chatted to you through Motivate was in 2018. I had you on as a guest for the Motorsport Coaching Podcast. It was episode 25. Like, that was so long ago.
It was a long time ago, wasn't it? We've done a whole COVID thing since then and all sorts of fun stuff. So, time flies, and that was good fun, and we'll try and give all the listeners lots of good information today about sponsorship again.
Awesome, thank you. So we do kind of like work together. For those that don't know, like, I don't actually seek sponsorship for sponsors, so I'm not a broker. I just pretty much give you the education, the tools, resources on how to go get it. But you, Mr. Hill, do. So, or can you tell us a little bit more about what you actually do day to day within sponsorship?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the role of a broker has changed significantly, perhaps from what people think it is. I think a lot of people still think it's just a person that goes out and sort of hustles a deal, which I suppose fundamentally that is the output of a broker. But I feel like a broker's role now, well, I know certainly from my perspective and when I work with my clients, it's also very much about bringing them along on the journey and sort of educating them, if you like, in the processes that we're undertaking for them, why we do what we do, and also being there to be able for them to bounce questions off. I personally like to be able to have them heavily involved, because I feel like that the rights holder, ultimately, most companies that are looking to sponsor, they really want to talk to the rights holder. So it's one thing to open the door, but then you kind of need to bring in the rights holder. So having them involved literally from the very start of the process, and I guess walking them through the way that we do that process and what the expectations would be from our side and how we would utilize them, is very much, it's quite far away from sort of that concept of, oh, okay, yep, that's what you've got. I'll go out and sell it and I'll come back to you with a bag of money type concept. So, that's how we work with our clients for sure.
Cool. I'm just going to go back one step, because I know we know what rights holders are, but for someone who's just getting started with motorsport sponsorship, what exactly is a rights holder?
So, a rights holder is obviously somebody that's seeking sponsorship. So somebody that's out there that has an asset in our sport, obviously motorsport, cars, teams, so on and so forth. They're rights holders. So meaning that you have an asset that you can control and sell parts thereof to a sponsor, for a mutually agreed amount of money.
Fantastic, thanks. And as you mentioned, we've had COVID, such a wonderful thing. How have you found the sponsorship industry to be? Because you not only work within motorsports now, you've kind of branched out, and you're working across a gamut of different industries. So how's it been across the board?
Look, I mean, COVID definitely, put the brakes on in a lot of ways for sponsorship. I think people that have sponsorships in place were able to still negotiate, like that felt like that didn't really slow down the sort of, if it was a renegotiation of contracts or those types of situations stayed fairly buoyant, but I think a lot of the companies that weren't involved that you might go to with a new offer became just very careful and I won't say gun shy, it's not the right word, but were very careful and cautious, and in most cases just decided that it was better to hold off. Now I'm talking your mid-sized companies, not your big multinationals that have big plans in place and are able to sort of keep driving through a situation like COVID. But your mid to your smaller size businesses really, obviously erred on the side of caution, just because we were also, sort of unaware, especially I'm in Melbourne and particularly down here in Melbourne with the lockdown and so on and so forth. Melbourne companies were very, very reticent to perhaps, sign new deals until they, had a better understanding of where the lay of the land was with COVID and what it was going to mean and how long it was going to go on for.
Yeah, so do you feel like it's on the uptrend, or do you think people are still being a little bit cautious about investing in motorsport marketing?
I think it's definitely on the uptrend. I don't believe that, in motorsport marketing in particular, that has changed. So they've come out of COVID, so there's more people prepared to have a meeting and listen to what you have to offer. And then I think really for motorsport marketing, it's about, finding those points of relevance for companies, which, I often, when I speak to rights holders, people looking for sponsorship in motorsport, and not just motorsport, but in motorsport, I think the biggest struggle is trying to get your head around what do we offer, sponsorship has evolved so quickly, and measurement and all these types of things that companies are now savvy and smart about, that trying to make your asset relevant into these different industry sectors, because you're not all going to just go to motoring related businesses, is really where the challenge still lays. But as far as people open to motorsport and considering it as a possible vessel to get their message, achieve their objectives, all those types of things, I definitely think it's still an exciting platform that people are interested in using. It's just how you introduce your opportunity to them.
Yeah, and since COVID, or the last 5 years since we kind of officially caught up, obviously there's a lot more businesses that are going around, not in Australia, but across the world. With COVID, a lot of businesses have flourished, new ones have been established. Do you think that there's been more or kind of like less opportunities, or I should say the actual business owners, do you think they're looking for different marketing avenues? Obviously, social media is right up there, cost, like with the costs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think, the biggest challenge we come up against is understand, companies, especially mid to smaller size companies, understanding why you would choose sponsorship over, a digital marketing package or something like that. So really, realizing that, hey, sponsorship gives us something that nothing else, no other marketing platform can, and that is that ability to, have a shared passion with with their audience is, and make that connection through a shared passion. So, again, part of my role will quite often be, if first you have to get in the door, but then it's actually having that conversation with a lot of these decision makers in these companies, to just make sure that they clearly understand, what the benefit is, and they're not just trying to price match on like for like, because it's not like for like. There is just so much more and different value proposition that comes out of a sponsorship that does from any of the digital, the digital format. So, again, that's, you've got the education from the rights holder in how to wrap something up and look into what a potential company they might be approaching. And then you've got the education in the companies, because you can't just assume that they understand sponsorship, because it really is
unique.
It's unique, and it's a very sort of specialist field, and to get it right, for a company to really be able to leverage a sponsorship and get all the opportunities out of it, quite often they'll need a bit of guidance if they don't have that department inside the company, which, again, the mid to small size normally don't. And that's part of our challenge too, because we have to help them execute, what we're actually trying to sell them as well.
Yes, because they don't cover this off at business school, do they? When they get their ABN and open up their business, there's no module around about investing in athletes or investing in sponsorship.
No, there's not. And I mean, there's still an element of passion, I think, that's involved in the decision making process of sponsorship. Sponsorship wouldn't exist without passion. Because it is that environment, it doesn't matter what particularly in sports or even other platforms, it's that like-mindedness, that passion between the people doing it, the audiences, and then so the potential company you're going to has to sort of feel a bit of that passion and really, see how they could tap into it, and that's the key. So although it's nothing like the percentage it used to be, because everybody needs to really quantify everything so carefully these days. There's certainly, you wouldn't have people making sponsorship decisions if they weren't passionate about the idea and the concept of the output of what this sponsorship could do, up and above just numbers on paper.
And so you have worked on the other sides where you've worked with companies that have sponsored athletes. So can you give us some insights to what they're looking for, maybe even just within a proposal or in a marketing benefit?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can.
Great, thanks.
That's all right. It'll cost you all out there, and you have to pay for it. But look, I mean, some of the basic things that I guess I can share to a rights, potential people looking for sponsorship rights holders out there is, the need, obviously, to just turn upside down. I mean, you know what you've got, right? So you write that list down and go, here's all the things that I've got to offer. And then you've sort of got to push that aside and really start that whole new list to say, okay, what industries or companies do I think are going to have, are going to see a relevance, or can I create some type of relevance to that I could, write to them about or talk to them about, and they would understand it. So that identification process is really, really important first up, to get your industry sectors right. And then in the actual, I guess, body of your sponsorship proposal, one of the, there's a couple of little things in there that most people forget about. They'll never, they never seem to put in what their media plan is. So they haven't thought out how they're going to generate that marketing value themselves. It can't just be put down to, well, dumb luck. I happened to be on TV last week because, whatever, I was winning or I crashed or, whatever it was. So companies they're trying to narrow down the risk portfolio. So being able to provide them and say, okay, here's things that we plan on doing. You don't even have to have them all locked in, but if you've got an idea and a concept as to how you're going to market yourself throughout the season, you want to add that sort of marketing and media aspect into your proposal for sure. I think the other really big thing is being able to paint the picture for that particular sponsor that you're talking to, and that's really about creating scenarios. And then I'm not talking page long written scenarios. I'm talking short little snapshots of, hey, we could be doing this, and so you've sort of put a bit of thought into what that company might be looking for, so you do your research, and then from that research on that company, then you say, right, these are their objectives. And then you create some little scenario so they can get that visual in their head of, oh, wow, we could do that, because, they don't, 99% of the time, they don't understand the motorsport world. They don't understand what you can and can't do and the sort of lay of the land. So creating these little 2 or 3 potential scenarios that might ring true with them because you've actually looked into what their objectives are, would really, is really helpful, because it gets their brain, just thinking, and they start to see themselves, potentially in that type of spot. So it gives you something to talk about. And plus it makes you look professional, because you've taken the time to actually look into this company you're coming to and said, well, okay, what is it they want to look at? And I mean, if you can just show those couple of things in your, sponsorship proposal, I'll guarantee you that you absolutely get, calls back and the opportunity to sit in front of people, because, you've already shown them that, you're serious and you're serious about them achieving their objectives, and you're half a smart person, because you've put that pen to paper and taken some time. So they'll give you time in return to come and have a bit more of a chat.
I like it a lot. Thanks for that, Tim. So before we wrap up, so I thank you again for your time, but do you have anything else that you'd like to share with the team regarding your services, how they can get in contact with you, sponsorship in general? Share your knowledge.
Yeah, look, I mean, I would extend that, I'm always happy to chat with people. We can't help everybody. Unfortunately, there's only so many hours and stuff in the day, and sometimes it just doesn't make mathematical sense. But I'm always happy to talk to people. So if anybody wants to go to go to our website, which is sponsorshipexperts.com.au, my number's there, my email's there, all that sort of stuff. So don't hesitate to reach out. But I think, look, just as a final piece, I would say to people, do your research, slow down at the process of sponsorship. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. And if you actually implement the steps of identifying the industries and the businesses, and then take a bit of extra time to do some research and put together just a slightly tailored version of your sponsorship introduction to them, you'll find you have a lot more success. And it'll be frustrating because you'll just think, I've only got out 2 this week and I wanted to have out 10. But I promise you that if you've done your initial stuff right, the 2 that you've got out will be going to the right sort of company and the right person within that company, and you've put your best foot forward and you've given yourself a really good chance to get a hearing. So, stick with the principles and philosophies, and yeah, good luck.
Good luck. Thanking you. I'd like to reiterate that everything kind of Dame's gone through is what I'm presenting this week in our live webinars. The top mistakes motorsport athletes make when seeking sponsorship. So the next one is on Wednesday, the 8th of March at 7 p.m. and on Saturday the 9th at 9 a.m. So if you'd like to catch those free webinars to hear some tips on what to do, then please come along. But I've just added Damon's website there for more information, how you connect with him. Damon, thank you very much for your time today.
It's always a pleasure. Love chatting, and let's get doing some proper sponsorship, guys.
Yeah, and I'll get you back onto the podcast again, and we'll do a full episode about the wonderful world of sponsorship soon.
Awesome. I look forward to it. It'll be great.
Thanks, Damon.
All right. See you later. Thanks.
Fantastic. Hello.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. And yourself?
Living the dream. Just living the absolute dream. So.
Of course. So thank you for joining us today. I'm going to be, and I've mentioned about how you'll be joining us with Inside the Winning Sponsorship Course as a bonus that you would get a free session with yourself. And that today you're going to talk about your highs and lows of your sponsorship journey. I mentioned that you're a motorsport athlete, but more importantly that you're a small business owner as well, and your relationship with sponsorship. And again, you've said and you haven't. So just tell us a little bit about yourself and your motorsport career.
Yes. So my sponsorship side of it, I don't know if everyone knows my racing story and everything like that from there. But motorsport story, I race in the Aussie Racing Cars, which is the main series we run in. We've been running in there since about 2019 and going okay with that, which has been successful on that front. But in that itself, it is a business in itself on how we obtain sponsors and keep them on and keep them interested and all that type of stuff from there as well. We've definitely had some highs in the sponsorship. We've had those golden gooses that just help us get other sponsors, and it just runs and runs, and they're real low maintenance and go from there. We've also had some terrible sponsors and trying to achieve them as well. The people that really break your back over, $50 worth of sponsorship type thing. So to say the whole team is affluent in all areas of the sponsorship realm of things, I would say yes, we are. Don't get me wrong, even at the bigger levels, it is still a challenge. There's challenges in all ways and shapes and forms, but I'm glad that, I can team up with Motivate and help out other people where need be as well, to try and give them that leg up that I didn't have, which made, my journey a lot longer with platforms like yours. It's teaching you the secrets that I had to learn first and foremost, by just being on the ground. So, that's where I'm happy to help out.
Hi, Beck. Welcome to the live. So, now, Cody, when you started racing, how did you get started with sponsorship? So, did you start first of all in Aussie race cars, or did you start somewhere else? And basically, what step when it came to getting sponsored?
Yeah, so my sponsorship journey actually started when I was go-karting. So we were able to discover what it was like trying to achieve, gain sponsors and everything at a real low level. Say, the local go-karting championship, or when the Australian Kart Championship had come to town in Newcastle, that's when we kind of got sponsors there. And we found that that level was quite achievable and good on that realm. We were able to take a lot from what we learned at the original go-karting side and help us grow our sponsorship from there and there on, and really continue from there. Going back to what you're saying, it really did start at early age. It really started when I first started racing go-karts. So, meaning that, no matter what level you are at, you can still achieve sponsorship. It's just a matter of the level in what you might achieve.
Do you remember who your sponsor was?
Yeah, so I think my first major sponsor, actually, this is probably a pretty funny story. My first ever sponsor is actually competing against me in the Aussie racing cars. So as it goes around in full circles, from knowing a person, I had a good relationship with a friend of ours, which we did some charity stuff and that together. He owns a big busing company up Muswellbrook Way, so up into the Hunter Valley region, and he sent me my first ever personally signed check of $200 to put stickers on the cars, and just he said, look, I just want to support you and buy you a set of tyres for your biggest races. There you go. And we did whatever we could to get onto there. So that I still remember that clearly. He sent me a letter and a check, and it's just funny now that I had to remind him the other day. I said, "Oh, remember you were my first ever sponsor." And he goes, "Oh, really? Don't pump me off the track then." So, and that was a really good way to get started.
So you do have a lot on your plate. As mentioned, you're a small business owner as well as an athlete. So how much time each week do you delegate to sponsorship seeking?
So it is difficult being a small business owner. I'm constantly cutting my time between the race team and running my mechanical workshop, which both do take a fair bit of time. Leading up into a race season like we are at the moment, we've got the Newcastle 500 next week. That's, you kind of double down. You're working on more of that than you are in the business. Sometimes you can spend, weeks on end, 8 to 10 hour days chasing sponsors. Other times, you can go the other way where, if you get your sponsors all sorted out, you might spend a couple of hours a week, taking care of them and all that type of stuff. It usually does depend on the agreements that we have got with our sponsors. Some sponsors want more, some sponsors want less. You have that personal approach and thing with them as well. But it usually does lead up a lot more time around the when the race meetings are coming on, because that's when we're promoting more. That's when we're active. We're not usually active between the race meets and stuff like that. So that's where, we'll push from there. So it does vary. I say dedicate as much time as you possibly can to it. Every, afternoon, every hour or something like that where you've got free, this isn't time to be sitting on the lounge. This is time to be actively trying to get that sponsorship through and trying to partner with companies to get you racing on the track.
And hi, everyone that is joining us. We're interviewing with Cody today, and we're talking about sponsorships, highs and lows from an actual motorsport athlete. If you do have any questions, please pop it in. Hey, Ben's just written, good livery designer helps too.
Yes, I'll put a shout out to Ben. If you see all of my liveries on all of my cars, he's the go-to guy. So, that's probably one thing we can nearly touch on with Ben in here, teaming up with the right people to have your liveries, have your posters, and have everything active so that when a sponsor does come to you, you've got to make sure that you can deliver the product. Because a lot of people I have seen, they've gone, oh, we've got to the stage, we've got $5,000 to go racing, we're over the moon. And then they go, oh, geez, who's going to print our posters? Who's going to do our marketing? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? Who's going to film our videos? And they spend the next week rushing things through to try and get it up and going. So that's where, you know, going back to Ben, and he's my livery designer, and I don't care what I say, but he's not getting away from me anytime soon. So, he's that good at what he does. But yeah, having the right team underneath you for those sponsorship acquisitions is a must.
Yeah. And one thing I love about you, Cody, is that you are awesome at networking. Do you have some tips about networking?
Yeah, the best thing I can really put out there when I see a lot of young drivers coming up through the ranks, you know, I even had it this morning. I work with a personal training coach for my fitness in my racing type thing, which we know is another part of what you do, and very, very important on that sense. And I had a couple of kids come in training with the same coach as me. They were, you know, coming up the ranks through soccer. But the thing was, you never heard a word out of them the whole time they were there. So they hardly said anything. They got in, they got their job done and got out. And that's not the right way of doing things. What you really want to be doing is talking, taking every opportunity to be talking and networking. If there's a party on that you might know of someone, or there's people there that you don't know, get out there and start talking to them. Tell them what you do. You know, tell them you're a race driver. Tell them what your dreams and aspirations are, because that's interesting. It's sexy. I always say, you know, I'll lead with when talking to people I want to impress, I'll say I'm a motor racer. But if I'm talking to people I don't want to impress, I'll say I'm a mechanic. You know, you can twist it and move it and shake it however many times. But really being out there and active, shaking hands, kissing babies, that type of thing. Make every excuse to go out. You know, if it's got to be to somewhere where you feel a bit awkward, get out of your space. Introduce yourself to people. Learn to talk. The more you talk, the more people are going to relate to you, and the better you're going to build that relationship, and the more likely you'll get that sponsorship across the line.
And now, so you've been on this sponsorship journey for a very long period of time, and business owner, you're quite restrictive. So you have now engaged with an agency to assist with your sponsorship and the activation at the tracks. Can you tell us a little bit about why you did that and what are the benefits of engaging agencies?
Yeah, so the one thing that we find, or my schedule, I'm pretty much working 7 days a week. You know, if there's not something to do at the business, there's something to do on the race team and everything like that. And you know what motor racing's like. You don't get a day off. It's weekend work as much as it's day work. The main problem we found that when we're trying to get to bigger companies, so we're at a stage now where we're talking to international companies and national companies. They're companies that have, you know, maybe 300, 400, 500 to 1,000 people that work for them. So that's a huge, huge company. And we needed a really, really good team to be behind us to go in with that, because it's all good and well to have, you know, your paperwork and your portfolios and all that type of stuff with them as well. But you can't do everything. You need a team that's going to do an activation and an event for these sponsors, especially at the events that we're competing at as well. You know, we need to make sure that we can try and get some return of investment on their products, because, you know, these people are putting money towards our cars, but they're looking at selling. If they're handing around $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 checks at a time and not getting anything out of it and can't see a return, the sponsorship falls away straight away. So whilst we got, you're kind of coming back to what we said about having the right team underneath you, it was more of a case of we wanted more of an professional approach when we stepped into a boardroom. That's what we did. We feel I can manage the smaller businesses, you know, like under 20 to 30 people or 40 people, you know, might be $5 to $10 million turnover that these businesses can handle. That's, you know, considered a small business. But when we're looking above that, that's when you really need to be walking into boardrooms with a team of people around you ready to ask all questions, if any.
Awesome. And so just before we wrap up, Cody, what is started with sponsorship?
Sorry, you just cut out a little bit there.
Sorry, before we wrap up, what are some tips you've got for those just starting out in sponsorship to get started?
Yes. So just starting out, it depends on the levels and stuff like that you are. It is not a simple question in a sense, but it's It's coming down to networking. Make sure you're networking and telling as many people as possible what you are doing and, you know, what you're looking at to, what you're achieving and all that type of stuff. That's going to get you more connections that you can have and talk to about these people with. You know, the person that sits and shuts himself into a room is never going to get any sponsorship because you're not marketable and you're not sexy, you know, which it comes down to. Other than that, it's probably... like, I don't mind saying it, and you know, sometimes you have to learn your own mistakes a little bit, so you know not to repeat them. I know it's I'm even one person that does that as well. Someone will tell me don't do it, and unless they can give me a really, really good reason, I need to find out exactly why I shouldn't do it, type thing. You know, we can trying to go back to setup of a car. You know, people go, oh, I'll never put that setup in a car again because the last time I tried it, it was really bad. But what were the track conditions like? What was the tyres like? What was this? What was that? There's so many variables in it that you have to learn. But then by learning that in the future, you might actually go back to that setup and go, oh, wow, in this situation, I found that worked. So you're trying it. So by getting out there and maybe making a couple of mistakes isn't really going to hurt you because you're going to learn from it. And then when you go to the next person, you know, either not to repeat it or to try and change your things up a little bit. So make mistakes and networking. That's probably the best thing I can give.
Fantastic.
Get ready for the race.
Do you feel one step closer to being the next superstar behind the wheel? MotivateTraining.com.au for more. MOTIV, 8, training.com.au.
The green flag.
Every episode gets you one step closer to the checkered flag. The Motorsport Coaching Podcast, getting you to the checkered flag faster.